Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
So what's going on out there, folks? What is your take on what's going on? What I actually know is you want to know what my take is on what's going on. And, of course, I'm here to tell you. I will tell you what I think is going on. What's going on is over the top. A lot of it, on the surface, doesn't make any sense. A lot of it seems incomprehensible, and that's why I'm here, to make the complex understandable. It's great to have you with us. Here's the phone number if you want to be on the program, 800-282-2882. The email address, lrushbo@eibnet.com. We've got some interesting polling data. eibnet.us. That's correct. We've changed the email domain, and it's lrushbo@eibnet.us. Sorry for that. Thank you for the reminder. We've got some polling data here and some interesting aspects of it that I want to tell you about. There are two long-form pieces that I want to call your attention to today. Victor Davis Hanson back with a brilliant piece about the Clintons and who they are and what motivates them. And it's a National Review Online, and I just love it because it essentially, in his own words, makes points that I have been trying to make about the Clintons since I first became aware of them in 1990. There's another piece, and this also is a piece right after my heart. It's by somebody named Thomas Frank. Now, there are two Thomas Franks. And one of the Thomas Franks is a big lib who wrote about what happened to Kansas, meaning why are people voting against their self-interest by voting against liberals and so forth. This is a Thomas Frank writing for the UK Guardian. The headline of this piece, forget the FBI cache, the Podesta emails show how America is run. I have noted on several occasions what's at stake here, the establishment, who they are, why they will do anything to hold on to power. And this piece nails it. And the brilliant aspects of this piece is that you can learn it. You don't have to tell anybody what you think. It's all there in the Podesta emails, the WikiLeaks document dump. It's all there, how these people in the establishment are devoted to the preservation of their own power and their own place within the establishment, that ideology comes a close second, that what they're really focused on is power. And anybody that has power, they will sidle up to. And it explains the unification of people from Hollywood, from Silicon Valley, from Wall Street to big finance, to corporate America, to multinational corporate world, and how it relates to the Democrat Party and the media and so forth. It's everything that I've told you. It's everything I've theorized to you about who these people are and why they're members of the establishment, what's beneficial and how you can't get in, how it's closely guarded. But the great thing about this piece is that he documents it and proves it by virtue of what the various members of the establishment are writing to each other in the Podesta email dump. There's so much more that has been reported, for example. There are emails to Podesta from other powerful people begging him to get their kids a job, begging him to get their daughter a job or their wife a job or get them a job or get them a free flight on some Saudi billionaire's jet somewhere. And it all happens. And none of it is merit-based. It's all based on membership in this club, which, again, has nothing to do with merit. It has a little bit to do with ideology. It has more to do with your resume, where you went to school, where you work, who your parents were, legacy, things like this. But it is so well done. I'm stunned it runs in The Guardian. The Guardian's a left-wing paper in the UK, and this piece just indicts the establishment. It explains why Trump is winning. It explains why. It doesn't specifically say so, but if you read it, you'll understand why Trump has got so much support, why so many people are so fed up, because the last thing this group cares about is the country. They don't care about what's good for the country. That falls by the wayside in the wake of considerations of what's good for them. Now, none of this is a surprise in terms of that there are people like this, but this documents it, and it's extensive, and it's primarily Democrat. The Republican members are there as pets. so to speak, but they don't rank. But it's all about Republicans who want to be in this club, who want to be taken seriously, who want to be accepted. It's classic high school, except the people we're talking about are multi-billionaires. So I'm not going to take the time to read the whole thing. I may give you excerpts, but I'm pointing you to it. We'll link to it at rushlimbaugh.com. Forget the FBI cache. The Podesta emails show how America is run. And boy, is that right. And it has nothing to do, literally has nothing to do with the will of the people, has nothing to do with what you learned in Civics 101 in junior high school. It has nothing to do with what you think the country was founded to be. That's not at all how America is run, nor who runs it. Depending on who you are and how much you think about these things, it will confirm suspicions that you've had. And it's great. It's stunning. And then the Victor Davis Hanson piece is just over the top in its brilliance at defining the Clintons for us and for everybody. It's nothing that you don't know, again. Well, some of it might be. But what it is just, it is so well crafted, and it is just dead on right. Let me give you just an excerpt paragraph from Victor Davis Hanson here. Of course, the Clintons are not only corrupt, but they are cynical as well. They accept that the progressive media, the foundations, the universities, the bureaucracies, Hollywood, Silicon Valley, honor power more than trendy left-wing politics. The Clintons well understand that their fans will, for them, make the necessary adjustments to contextualize Clinton criminality, or Clinton immorality, or Clinton amorality. Sexual predations, the demonization of women, graft, and unequal protection under the law are also of no consequence to the inbred, conflicted, and morally challenged media, who will always check in with the Clinton team like errant dogs who scratch the back door of their master after a periodic runaway wanting to be let back in. It just dissects everything that is the Clintons. Clinton Inc., Clinton Friends, how the Clintons managed to become paupers, go from paupers to multi-millionaires without producing anything, without generating anything. It's a story of Clinton grift, Clinton graft, Clinton corruption. It's everything that you know. So well crafted as to be undeniable. So those are two long-form pieces I want to call your attention to. We've got the polling data. Now let's look at some of the actual news that has been made since we were last together. By the way, Trump and Pence are in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, and they are doing a joint appearance today, and they're really focusing on Obamacare. They are really staying focused on issues while all this other stuff that they have no control over, such as the Comey investigation, the FBI investigation, whatever's going on with Hillary and Huma and Carlos Danger, they're letting that play out. Which reminds me, the audio soundbite's coming up. The Democrats, I mentioned yesterday that if you didn't know, you should know that they're in panic. In the deep, dark crevices of power, the Democrat Party, they're in abject panic. This is not where they were supposed to be. Trump was not supposed to be a factor. The election was supposed to be over months ago. But certainly this week, it was not supposed to be in question. Hillary should have been, they're already planning inaugural balls and all the other trappings that go with victory. This is not where they wanted to be, and with the possibility Trump could win, they are in abject panic, and it's being demonstrated on TV. James Carville lost it on MSNBC. We're going to break the ban that we have on MSNBC to let you hear that. Robbie Mook, the Clinton campaign, lost it. They're all losing it out there over Comey. Now, stop and think. The Clintons themselves are responsible for sustaining this. It has nothing to do with Comey. Like there's a story in thehill.com about how Comey is going to be soon under investigation for the letter that he sent to Congress because he's violated the law. It's not how it works, folks. I hate to tell you, but it's the subject or the target of an investigation that is the focus of the investigation. In this case, Mrs. Clinton and Huma. The investigator is not under suspicion, but this is how the Clintons operate. They turned it around on Ken Starr, made him the focus with the media's assistance, and they're trying to do the same thing now with 1 week out. They're trying to do the same with Comey. The problem is, back in July, they praised Comey to the hilt. You know what Hillary should have done the minute Comey came out last Friday, when this letter was made public, Comey's letter to Congress? You know what she should have done? She could have shut all this down. She could have owned this week, because they're not going to be producing anything. Well, that's another thing. I gave you a hypothetical question yesterday that may turn out to have actually some truth behind it. But if Mrs. Clinton on Friday, or if the Clinton campaign, if Mook or whoever had said, we trust James Comey, he's already investigated this, and there isn't anything there. We've got 1 week out. We're going to continue our quest here to win the presidency. We have complete, utter confidence and faith in James Comey. I don't know what he's got, but he's already said that there's nothing there, and that's what we think is the case now, and that would have shut it down. But with her fighting it, and with her team trying to make Comey now into Satan incarnate, and with all these, hiding Huma, they have invited scrutiny. They have made it look like, oh, my God, Comey must have something or Hillary wouldn't be acting this way. There must be something there or the Clinton campaign wouldn't be reacting this way. So all of this they are bringing on themselves. All of this they have brought on themselves. None of this, I'm watching these left-wing commentators, and they're all complaining about Comey and the FBI. They're missing the boat. If she hadn't set up this server, if she hadn't said what difference does it make after 4 people died in Benghazi, if she hadn't been so cavalier, if she hadn't thought that laws don't apply to her, if she had not believed that she was above the law and traditions that everyday people have to follow, she wouldn't be in this mess. She's in this mess because of what she did. She is in this mess because of who she and her husband are. She's in this mess because there is evidence that they have been running a grifting operation and a graft operation at their foundation. There is evidence that she has not been completely truthful on whatever is with this email and server, and now that Huma Abedin and her husband are involved in this, you find it fascinating, as I do, that here you have a woman who portrays herself as a staunch feminist. And she represents staunch feminists. She represents the new era of feminists, being brought down by a sex pervert, married to her number one aide, Huma Abedin. What about the irony of that? And then you have Huma marrying the guy in the first place, and then now Huma says, I don't know how my emails ended up on my husband. It's just too rich. It's just too rich. Hillary's the most cheated on woman in America, and it's happening again right in front of our eyes. And this time it's Anthony Weiner. And his own activities, and because of his marriage, Hillary is calling Huma one of my staffers. Is one of my staffers' laptops is in the investigation under question of the FBI. One of my staffers. Huma Abedin is Hillary's body companion, meaning Huma is everywhere Hillary is. Huma carries out Hillary's orders and directives. Huma advises Hillary. Huma and Hillary are inseparable. She's not just one of Hillary's staffers. That's another indication here that there's something really going on. There may be something to see here. And for people that are so expert in dealing with things, they have really mishandled this. Now, let's take a look at some of the headlines that and news summaries that happened when we were last together, since we were last together. The New York Times has come out with a piece last night that says definitively there is no Donald Trump link to Russia. Now, they put it on page 21 so that New York Times readers on the Upper West Side won't see it and have their days ruined. but they still run it. You know, Zabars is not going to be damaged here by deranged New York Times readers because they won't see this. It's on page 21. However, they ran it, and it's all over their website, and it's all over the country now. The New York Times came out with a piece last night. There is no Donald Trump link to Russia. Well, now, what's going on with that? That is a major cutting them off at the knees for the Clinton campaign and Obama, who have been living off this notion that Trump knows Putin, that Trump's a friend of Putin, that Trump and Putin are behind the email dump that WikiLeaks has. The New York Times says there's no Trump link. Then we had Doug Schoen saying he can't vote for Hillary anymore. He's been around her ever since she's been in public life, and he's withstood every scandal, but this one he wants no part of, and he announced publicly on Fox he's abandoning Hillary. CNN dumps Donna Brazile after they learned that Donna Brazile's been sharing debate questions with Hillary Clinton. And the sidebar to that is, isn't it amazing how many people in the Hillary camp think she's incapable of simply answering issue-oriented questions on the fly? They have to cheat. They have to furnish her the questions. They have to let her get a leg up and maybe an advantage in preparation because they just don't trust that she's up to speed enough issue by issue to handle a question. I mean, who can't anticipate the questions? But they have to go out of their way. And here, Donna Brazile has whatever she did for Hillary Clinton has resulted in her being canned at CNN. That takes a lot. Then Obama came out via Josh Earnest and said, we totally trust Comey. We don't think Comey has done anything here to interfere with an election. We think Comey and the FBI are behaving here with utmost integrity. So, whoa! What does this mean? If you read a little further, you might also sense a warning from Obama to Comey, but I have to take a break on that aspect. I'll complete all this when we get back. I actually had a couple people email me last night, Rush, because they came across everything I just shared with you. And it looked to them like, with a question, Rush, is the Democrat Party turning on Hillary? Have they decided it's not worth it, that they can't prop her up? I mean, that's how this stuff appeared to people last night. Let me review again. New York Times, no Trump link to Russia. New York Times backs Trump, in fact, on Russia. Doug Schoen can't support Hillary. I've seen everything, and this takes a cake. I'm no longer in the Hillary camp, can't do it. You know, that's a major defection. CNN getting rid of Donna Brazile. Major, the unprecedented type things happening on the Democrat side. Obama holding with Comey. President Obama does not believe FBI Director James Comey is attempting to influence a presidential vote, according to Josh Earnest, the press secretary, yesterday. He said the president doesn't believe that he's secretly strategizing to benefit one candidate or a political party. Comey's in a tough spot, Ernest said, and he's the one. This is where the potential warning might be. Comey's in a tough spot. He's the one who'll be in a position to defend his actions in the face of significant criticism from a variety of legal experts, including people who served in senior Department of Justice positions in administrations led by presidents in both parties. They always throw that in. But despite that, hang on. Okay, so before I was rudely interrupted, White House, we will not defend nor criticize Comey on emails. So if you add all of these things up, just one more time, the New York Times last night comes out with a piece, no linkage, Donald Trump to Russia, undercutting a major campaign thrust point of Hillary Clinton. Doug Schoen, longtime Clinton pollster, announces he can't support Hillary. He leaves. CNN dumps Donna Brazile after they learned she was sharing debate questions with Hillary Clinton. The undertow there is that Hillary obviously does not have the confidence of her people to go into a debate without having a leg up, without having been able to cheat. They don't trust her to be able to answer questions to which she doesn't know that they're coming. It's astounding. And then Obama announces via Ernest, nothing wrong with Comey. We totally support Comey. We don't condemn Comey. And again, here's the whole paragraph. President Obama does not believe FBI Director James Comey is attempting to influence this year's presidential vote. Now, wait, it wasn't that long ago, just a couple days, that the White House was not doing this. The White House was joining the Clinton campaign in casting aspersions on Comey. And then all of a sudden there's a 180. And it made people think, you know what? Maybe Obama sees the handwriting on the wall. Maybe she's toasted. Obama's now is going to throw her overboard because what Obama cares about, first and foremost, is his legacy in the history books, not the Democrat Party, not Hillary Clinton, not even his agenda as it relates to this in terms of continuing it. I actually had people thinking this, sending me emails like, could this possibly be going on? Now, here's the whole paragraph, though. From Josh Earnest, the president does not believe that Comey is secretly strategizing to benefit one candidate or another, or political party. That's cutting the Democrat Party off at its knees with one of their main claims that Comey has become a pure partisan. Now, they don't have credibility saying this because they've praised Comey back in July. But then Ernest said of Comey, he's in a tough spot. He's the one who will be in a position to defend his actions in the face of significant criticism from a variety of legal experts, including people who served in senior Department of Justice positions in administrations led by presidents in both parties. The White House, that you could construe that as a warning from Ernest, Obama through Ernest to Comey. The White House had no role in Comey's decision to inform Congress that he was investigating new emails related to Hillary's private server. Ernest added this, said he would neither defend nor criticize the decision, Obama wouldn't, amid the outcry about Comey's decision. And then Ernest said that Comey is a man of integrity and good character. Well, that undercuts every line of attack the Hillary campaign decided to mount against Comey. There's one more element to this. Now, yesterday on this program, I asked a hypothetical. I think it was of a caller, but I asked the question to everybody. What are you going to do? What's your reaction going to be if Wednesday or Thursday of this week, the FBI announces the investigation has proceeded significantly enough that they now know there's nothing there? There's no additional information to be added to what we already know about Mrs. Clinton and her emails and her server. I said, what's your reaction to that going to be? And people admitted, oh, that would be horrible, Rush. That would be terrible. That'd mean we've been played. That's exactly right, because while all this 5 days has gone on, nobody's talking about WikiLeaks. Well, did you see what the LA Times reported late last night? FBI investigators had planned to conduct new email review over several weeks. FBI now hopes to complete a preliminary assessment in coming days. But agency officials have not decided how or whether they will disclose results publicly. Developing. That was a Drudge flash. So, in addition to all this other stuff, the Times saying nothing to see there, Trump and Russia, Doug Schoen leaving Hillary, CNN dumping Brazil, Obama siding with Comey, praising his integrity, the New York Times backing Trump on Russia, the LA Times saying investigators, the FBI, may have some news for us on Thursday. Could come this week. So let's throw that into the mix. FBI says they might have something on Thursday. White House singing Comey's praises amidst a potential rushed preliminary assessment of 650,000 emails. You realize how you could be, you couldn't be blamed if you thought some BS was in the air here. So the point is, nobody knows. Again, I hate to keep repeating my mantra, but boy, there are things happening that we did not expect to happen in any way, shape, manner, or form. Whoever thought that Obama would side with Comey? Whoever thought CNN would ever get rid of somebody like Donna Brazile, and for the admitted reason that she helped Hillary cheat in a debate? And let's not forget that the Obamacare premium increases are out there, and that has dramatic impact on people. Now, the people in the establishment, the people in Washington, the Obamacare premiums are of no concern to them. Immigration, no concern to the impact of these things. On average, ordinary Americans, no concern to them because it doesn't affect them. Obamacare premiums of no concern to people in the establishment. Same thing with illegal immigration. Same thing with trade deals. But you have to throw all of those things in the mix. And, folks, on the surface, to me, this is looking really bad for Hillary Clinton. This is not the kind of thing. These are not the kind of things that happen to a winning, vibrant, upbeat, and positive campaign 1 week out from an election. Nowhere near it. Now let's go to the audio soundbite. Here's Robbie Mook on CNN's New Day this morning. Chris Cuomo is talking to him. Says, okay, so what do you do? By all accounts, the FBI not going to say anything between now and Election Day. Do you leave it alone? Because, as you accurately point out, we don't know what the heck's in these emails. Or do you keep banging on Comey's door and saying, tell us more about these emails? Or do you keep banging the door and say, Trump? Tell us more about Trump. Look into what Trump's doing. What are you doing, Mook?
If you're in the business of releasing information about investigations on presidential candidates, release everything you have on Donald Trump. Release the information on his connections to the Russians. Maybe there are investigations now into his taxes. It was shocking to me yesterday that every time people ask questions about investigations pertaining to Donald Trump, they are tight-lipped and silent, quote-unquote, sticking with protocol. When it comes to Hillary Clinton, they don't. We didn't cause this problem. James Comey opened this door, and we're just asking for him to make this right and treat everybody the same.
So you hear that. No, we need to investigate Trump. We need to investigate Trump on Russia. We need to investigate Trump on taxes. We need Trump's investigations to continue. And we need the FBI to tell us what's going on. This sounds childish. This sounds like first-grade sandbox kind of stuff. It sounds like Bart Simpson. I didn't do it. Nobody saw me do it. You can't prove anything. It's like a little kid here, Robbie. Well, I think you should go into Trump, too. You know, he has no defense for Hillary. He's got literally no defense for whatever they are investigating Hillary Clinton. The only thing he can do is demand that the FBI look into Trump, too. Maybe he hadn't known that the New York Times has already cleared Trump when it comes to Russia. And as far as liberals are concerned and Democrats are concerned, when the New York Times clears you, you are cleared. The New York Times carries as much weight as the FBI. And if the New York Times says there's nothing to see between Trump and Russia and Putin, then there's nothing to see. Doesn't matter what the FBI says. The New York Times is that big a Bible for people on the left. Here's Alex Wagner over on CBS this morning. She's a senior editor at The Atlantic, used to be at PMSNBC. Gayle King says, are you hearing whisperings of concern about her presidency even in her own party?
Yeah, I mean, I think what happened last week, we were treated to another batch of WikiLeaks stolen emails from John Podesta's account, which reflect a serious amount of consternation inside her own campaign about how she handled the email scandal when it first broke. If we are still saying the words Vince Foster, if we are still saying the words Whitewater, if we are still talking about Kenneth Starr, who's in the New York Times today, Democrats are forced to say the words Anthony Weiner 10 days, 9 days before an election is not where the party thought it was going to be.
I think that's the same Alex Wagner that worked at MSNBC. Maybe there's two of them, and maybe the Alex Wagner I'm thinking of still works. I don't know. It doesn't matter. The fact is they're panicked. Now, I've taken a brief time out here. When we come back, James Carville erupts on MSNBC. Don't go away. Yes, we're going to get your phone calls in on the program today, as always. We got a great roster of people waiting to get through now. But we want to get to Carville. This is yesterday afternoon, MSNBC Live with Thomas Roberts. And it's pretty volatile. And it's in the vein of panic and anger. And I don't care however you choose to analyze what's going on. The thing that you have to know is this is not where the establishment thought they would be 1 week away from the election. Nowhere close. there is panic, not just in the Democrat Party, folks. There's panic at the upper levels of what we now call the ruling class or the establishment or the elites. And I may even change my mind and share with you a couple or three excerpts from this Thomas Frank piece about the Podesta emails demonstrating how our country is actually really run and who is running it. And it's got a soft spot in my heart because it's pretty much everything that I have attempted to inform people of in terms of just who the ruling class is. So that's coming up. We have a ban on MSNBC. We do not play audio sound bites that involve their talent because they're lame brains, and, why promote them? But occasionally they have a guest that goes off one thing, one way or another. Carville did. Thomas Roberts says the Democrats criticized Director Comey, but if he sat on information until after the election, there's something there. Wouldn't he be accused of a cover-up?
He was acting in concert and coordination with the House Republicans. End of story. He gave the letter to him. They gave it to Fox News. Also, we have the extraordinary case of the KGB being involved in this race and selectively leaking things from the Clinton campaign that they hacked. The American democracy is really under attack here.
James Comey was praised in July by everyone for not moving forward with a recommendation to Loretta Lynch. So why now is it different for Comey when they find something that could be pertinent?
You know what John Maynard Keynes said? When the facts change, I change my mind. What do? Well, you said something nice in July, so you can't say, in spite of Justice Department policy, in spite of former people in the Bush administration, in spite of ethics people all over saying this is unprecedented, why are you defending this?
Comey sent his letter to Republicans and Democrats. Carville says that Comey was acting in concert and coordination with the House Republicans. He gave the letter to them. He gave it to both parties. And then they gave it to Fox News. So what? Fox News is a news agency. We also got it. I had it that afternoon. Everybody had it. And now we have the extraordinary case of the KGB being involved in this. Carville has lost it. Carville has become a left-wing conspiracy loon, believing whoever on the Democrat Party started this insanity that the KGB or the Russians are responsible for exploiting the Clinton server and then leak the information to Assange, who then put it on his servers at WikiLeaks, and he's actually trying to sell that. That's not what happened. The Russians don't have anything to do with this, folks. But the Democrats, that's all they've got is to blame it on the Russians. And if the Russians didn't do it and they're just out there saying it as a political point, this is dangerous. Accusing a wannabe potential, again, superpower of meddling when they're not. The point is they can't get over this. It has to be something totally complicated and inexplicable to explain how they allowed such a monumental screw-up to happen. The monumental screw-up is not jettisoning the Clintons long ago. When you're in business with the Clintons, this is what happens to you. And so now their only recourse is to put the KGB. That's Putin. Putin was KGB, so Carville's he's trying to be colorful here. Rather than say the Russians, trying to say the KGB. American democracy is really under attack here. No, there are people trying to save it, James. That's what this election is really all about, Mr. Carville. There are people working their butts off trying to save our republic and save democracy from the likes of powerful people in the Democrat Party who want to take this country and turn it into a personal little playground for their own private gain. And to hell with what happens to anybody else that lives here. And people are fed up with it. So Thomas Roberts says, well, James, in July when Comey did the unprecedented act of holding a press conference to reveal that he wasn't going to charge, he wasn't going to recommend Loretta Lynch, charge Hillary or anybody else, the left, nobody on the left was up in arms that Comey was acting in ways he shouldn't act. They praised Comey back then. Aren't you guilty of a double standard here?
No, it's not a double standard at all. You're sitting here defending an assault on American democracy. This is an unprecedented event that was done at the behest of the House Republicans, that was leaked to the press by the House Republicans. And as we know, the KGB is all over this election, and this is what we're talking about. This is unbelievable 8 days before an election, and it's more unbelievable that people like you are defending this.
Right, and there's still more, folks. One more bite. Here we go.
In no way am I defending it. I'm just trying to ask questions of you as a political operative.
You're making excuses for Comey by bringing up something somebody said in July.
No, I'm not making excuses. Director Comey's been praised on the left and the right for being a pretty neutral guy for his career.
I don't know what someone said in July. We're talking about the FBI against Justice Department policy, against everything that we all know, getting involved in a presidential election. If you want to defend that, you defend it, but I'm not. I think this is an outrage, and I think the fact that the KGB is involved in this election is an outrage, and I think the American people ought to take their democracy back, regardless of what the press wants to do and the excuses they want to make for Comey. And if there's not something substantial, and I mean really substantial, then this is, in effect, an attempt to hijack an election. The House Republicans and the KGB are trying to affect our democracy.
Kid store, an alien surveillance is trying to get your kids smoking Joe Camel and dirty cigarettes, Larry. That's what they're trying to do. It's James Carville, my friend. James Carville. The KGB taking back our democracy. The KGB threatening our democracy, ruining our democracy. The KGB interceding in an election. No. Justice doesn't, when done properly, justice doesn't see a calendar, Mr. Carville. We'll be back in just a second. Don't go away. Right here it is in the New York Times. U.S. officials doubt that Donald Trump has a direct link to the KGB. Well, it says Russia, but I'm substituting KGB for Russians, what Carville's doing. Right there it is in the New York Times. Obama doesn't believe FBI director trying to influence election. ABC News. Your phone calls, I want to get to them soon in the next hour. We'll do that right when we get back here, folks. Hang in there. And we are back at a cutting edge. El Rush Limbaugh having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have. Meeting and surpassing all audience expectations every day. A telephone number if you want to be on the program, 800-282-2882. Email address elrushbo@eibnet.com. I got requests. EIBnet.us. I'm sorry, elrushbo at EIBnet.us. I'm not trying to screw this up. It's called syllabic memory. For 25 years or however long we've been doing email, it's been elrushbo at EIBnet. You just say the syllables. So I've got this giant sign in front of me called Brian. And any time I say it wrong, he shouts at me through the glass. It's elrushbo at EIBnet.us. Number request in the email to play the Ken Starr, James Carville parody on C-SPAN about Ken Starr. I guess it might not be a bad thing to do. We've got to try to put Carville in perspective. Mike, grab that. Let me know when you have that. Yeah, that should not be too long because it's in our archival stack that is readily available. Now, here you go. Investigating Donald Trump, FBI. We got it going. Hang on. Investigating Donald Trump, FBI sees no clear link to Russia. It's on page 21, but it's there. Investigating Donald Trump, FBI sees no clear link to Russia, to the KGB. The New York Times reports it independently as well. On the front page of the New York Times, you know what the headline is? I'm going to read to you this headline verbatim. Donald Trump used legally dubious method to avoid paying taxes. So the front page of the New York Times above the fold is a story that Trump legally used the tax code in paying his taxes back in 1992. Donald Trump used legally dubious. What do you mean legally dubious? What is it dubious? If it's legal, what do you mean dubious? It wasn't a loophole. If it's a law, it's a law. There aren't any loopholes in the tax code. What they are trying to tell you that a loophole is that you have people that write the tax law, which is the House Ways and Means Committee and other committees in the House. They write the tax law. And then what they want you to think a loophole is that some rich guy somewhere has had a battery of lawyers go through the tax code and find ways to beat the law and illegally not pay taxes that they should be paying. And they call those loopholes, as though the people who write the tax laws enable illegal activity. Well, folks, that's not what a loophole is. There are no loopholes. You use the tax law as it's written, and if it results in you not paying any taxes, there hadn't been any loophole. You are, and there's nothing dubious, you're following the law. Legally means follow the law. Donald Trump used lawful method to avoid paying taxes, but they throw the word dubious in there. That's not much, folks. That's not much. That's not a headline that Donald Trump breaks law in avoiding paying taxes. That's not what the headline says. Now, some low-information people in the Upper West Side, they might interpret it that way, but it's not what it says. Okay, let's go through the polling data that I mentioned. This is it's all interesting, and depends on how you look at these things, folks. I mean, I'm spotting trends. Other people are too. Some people don't. It's just it's really hard to separate your desire, your prejudicial desire, from static analysis of what's actually happening. But I can just tell you that where we are right now is not where anybody of expert status anywhere thought we would be. But it is where a lot of people thought we would. A lot of people on the Trump side, a lot of people who are not part of the Republican or Democrat hierarchy in Washington always thought this was possible. And I can quote people from last fall who, before it was risky to make such a prediction, felt confident Trump could win this in a landslide back last fall. Now, I don't have those people saying that now, but I mean, the point is there have been all kinds of believers that Trump could win. You've had pessimists, too. I mean, you've had the Never Trump crowd beside themselves over any prospect of Trump winning. But I'm just telling you that where we are right now with the news and the way it's falling out, and Donna Brazile being let go, and the New York Times exonerating Trump on Russia, and Obama not trying to savage Comey, this is not where anybody, particularly on the Clinton side, thought they would be. New York Post, Hillary already planning her giant victory celebration. Law enforcement officials and the FDNY Fire Department of New York have been told to prepare for a barge-launched firework display off the Javits Center in Manhattan, where Clinton and Tim Kaine will join their supporters for the November 8th vote count, sources said. The aerial detonations would last for 2 minutes, with the triumphal celebration permitted to start as early as 9:30 p.m., a mere half hour after the polls close in New York. Hillary's blueprint for lighting up the sky was sketched out before last week's revelation that the FBI had revived its probe of her private email scandal. The FDNY, the fire department memo ordering its Marine One company to provide standby protection for the fireworks show, was sent out Friday, the same day that FBI Director Comey alerted Congress that agents would check to see if the new emails contained any classified information. A retired firefighter said that the fire department's rank and file is outraged that they are being forced to do political work. Quote, "This will make it seem like the firefighters endorsed Hillary," the source said. The only fire-related union to back a candidate is the Fire Marshals Benevolent Association, which has endorsed Trump. Okay, so Hillary already planning her victory celebration in New York on a barge with fireworks at 9:30 next Tuesday night. That's the kind of stuff. I mean, look, you can go ahead and plan it, but to report it, that's the kind of stuff that comes back and bites you. Can I give you an analogy of this? I forget the year, but it's early 2000s. And in fact, it might have been Tom Brady's first year as quarterback of the Patriots after Drew Bledsoe got hurt. Pittsburgh Steelers and the New England Patriots are playing in the championship game in Pittsburgh. And there's only 1 week this year celebrating the championship games in the Super Bowl, not the traditional 2 weeks. I may have the teams. I think it's right. I think the Patriots were told by their coach, Bill Belichick, that the Steelers already think they've won the game. They're already making hotel reservation plans and ticket plans for their families at the Super Bowl. They're not even concerned about the game coming. They've already won the game in their minds. Belichick told the Patriots this. They've already won the game. You guys are just incidental. They're already planning for their families and their friends to go to the parties, to get hotel reservations, tickets to the game. And that fired up the Patriots players, and they skunked the Steelers in the championship game that year. Now, the fact of the matter is both teams were doing that. With only 1 week, both teams in the championship game are making plans for getting their families to the site of the Super Bowl. But Belichick psychologically told his team that the Steelers were doing it to such a degree that they weren't even worried about the game, and it fired them up. It made them think that they were underdogs and forgotten at a road team to begin with. And any time something like that happens elsewhere, I always remember that. So here we've got the news that Hillary is already planning with Tim Kaine their fireworks celebration next Tuesday night on a barge off the Javits Center. They've already won this. Now, look, both teams, both campaigns are making victory night celebration plans. That's not the point. The point is, you don't go out there and start bragging about it before it's happened. There's nothing good that can come of this. Only bad can happen from this, karma-wise, any otherwise. And Hillary's out there doing it. Try this. Let's get to the actual polling data now. This is from the Politico. What have you heard about early voting? Let me ask you that before I get to this. My guess, no, I'm talking about specific early voting this year. What have you heard about it? Here's what you've heard. You've heard that the early voting is just skunking Trump. The Democrat enthusiasm, why it's not been seen anywhere near this throughout the campaign, because it hasn't. There hasn't been any enthusiasm for Hillary. She can't draw crowds or any of that. But the early voting, the news is, oh my God, the Democrats are dwarfing the Republicans in early voting. This is a phenomenon. They're reporting this. Drive-by media is reporting it. All over the country, Florida, where we live, you wouldn't believe it. The stories day in and day out. The early voting, hardly any Republicans are voting at all in early voting. It's Democrats, and it's just, it's like nothing anybody's ever seen before. Well, Politico today, weak early voter turnout among African Americans hurts Clinton in Florida. Black voters cast ballots in higher numbers in 2012 for Obama. Hillary Clinton has a black voter problem in Florida. After the first full weekend of in-person early voting ended on Sunday, African-American turnout failed to meet expectations or even historic precedent, leaving top Democrats and activists fuming or worried that Clinton's campaign is not living up to the hype in Florida. So they're admitting they have been hyping early voting. They have been hyping demographics of the early voting. Particularly, they've been talking about Democrat early voting and African-American and Hispanic and Latino early votes. It's off the charts. We've never seen anything like it. And now it's 1 week before, and it's time to start getting real. The black vote is way underperforming compared to 2012. That is a quote from somebody named Smith. I've got the full quote here, and it says Smith said, I haven't read the full. Oh, it's Dan Smith, University of Florida political science professor. University of Florida political science professor. Black vote way underperforming. Yesterday we had Indiana plus in the Monmouth poll, Trump plus 11. Yeah, I know it's Indiana plus 11. Unheard of. Nobody expected that. Reuters. Clinton holds a 5-point lead as the FBI looks at more emails. Reuters Ipsos poll. Hillary held a 5 percentage point lead over Trump, according to a Reuters Ipsos opinion poll released yesterday. That's down only slightly since the FBI said last week it was reviewing new emails. Clinton held a 6-point lead over Trump in the 5-day tracking poll last Thursday. However, if you move over here to the ABC tracking poll, Trump leads Clinton by 1 point in new poll as enthusiasm for Hillary declines. She was up 12 in this poll on October 23rd. Now Trump is up by 1. Is that really what's happened here? Has Hillary lost 13 points in this poll? That's what they want us to believe? There's more on this, but I have an obscene profit timeout I have to take. More coming up. Don't go away. Just a couple of internal notes here from the ABC poll. Trump now leads Clinton by 8 points in the share of voters who are very enthusiastic about their choice as of Friday. But compared to past elections, it's low for both, 53% for Trump, 45% for Clinton. But Trump is still beating her 8 points enthusiasm. Strong enthusiasm for Clinton has lost 7 points since started tracking, especially Friday through Sunday. So October 23rd, she was up by 12. Today, Trump is up by 1 in the ABC tracking poll. And how does that happen? I mean, do we actually believe somebody can lose that much in, 7, 8 days? 12 points? Maybe so with this WikiLeaks and then the FBI. Who knows? But my real thinking is the first number, the plus 12, was never right. I don't think Hillary's ever been plus 12 over anybody at any point in this campaign. I just don't believe it. Now, I'm not suggesting the polling has been purposely wrong. I just don't believe it's been accurate in catching public sentiment for whatever reason. Now this just in from Zero Hedge, the 25th WikiLeaks release of hacked emails at John Podesta. A new one has been discovered March 2nd, 2015. This is an exchange between Podesta and Clinton aide Cheryl Mills. And this email says, on another matter, and not to sound like Lanny, but we're going to have to dump all those emails. That's Podesta talking to Cheryl Mills. Now, this email happens at the same time that the New York Times ran the story about Hillary Clinton using a personal email account and a private server in her basement at home instead of the State Department servers. So almost at the same time, there's an email from Podesta to one of Hillary's aides that says, we are going to have to dump all those emails. What emails is he talking about? The same day the New York Times reports she's got a private server. The point here is that this email might actually go to intent. Podesta telling a Hillary aide, we're going to have to dump all those emails on her server. Okay, to the phones we go. People have been patiently waiting. We're going to start in Stafford, Virginia. This is Karna. Great to have you. Hi.
Hi, Rush. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Well, you're more than welcome. You bet.
Okay, I want to say that I want to thank you so much for being a voice for millions of us who are completely fed up with the corruption and the dishonesty in our government and media. I'm thankful that you have the platform and you can be our voice.
Well, I'm happy that that's how you see me. Yeah, I come here every day and I share with you what I think about things, and the fact that it dovetails with what you think that's awesome. I'm glad to hear it.
Oh, if I don't trust the polls at all. I feel the media is so dishonest, and I just feel that this election truly is about we the people versus the corrupt political establishment, and we just want our voices to be heard, and through our votes, that will happen. It
really is. You know, that's not just a bunch of words. Folks, let me make a little deviation here for something. Around the holidays each year, I try to take a brief moment to tell you how much I appreciate all of you. A couple of weeks ago, we had an advertiser, a sponsored dinner here, where as many of our sponsors, we try to pick a date where as many of us possible can get here. And I made remarks, as I usually do. And I want to tell you something I told them. They all have phenomenal success on this program, and that's because of you. And I told them that, I gave them my philosophy of this job, my program, and how I go about it, what I think the objectives are that have to be met, the business objectives. And I told them that what enables them to have success as advertisers and sponsors of this program is you, and how the relationship that I have with you is what makes everything work, and that I do this program for the audience. It's a focus of mine that I've had since day one. That everything here is done, everything's for the show, not for outside interests or not for anything other than you. The service, the reasons you're here, and to meet the expectations you have of what you expect to hear, the level of competence, the talent, the info, everything you expect. I try to meet that and surpass it each and every day. And I told them in no uncertain terms that the wonderful aspect of all this is the connection that I have developed with you, the people who listen to the program, and it's what makes their advertising work. And I said it's because there is a mutual respect and a sophistication on the part of people who listen to this program, who understand how things work. They understand why there are sponsors, and they understand the role sponsors play in the success of a commercial enterprise like this in the free market. We don't have donors. We don't have underwriters. We don't have people making pledges. I mean, this all has to make it or break it within the market. And I praised to the hilt those of you in this audience for your sophistication and your understanding of how things work and your loyalty. And I really do. I consider it to be a matter of great fortune for me that just by virtue of the fact that I can come here every day and just shoot from the hip and be totally honest about what I think about things that are happening, that resonates with so many of you, is a godsend. It is a blessing. And I have never taken it for granted. Meaning I never assume that you're going to be here no matter what. There's a deep amount of respect. And I was reminded of this because Karna, our first caller, thanks me for speaking up for you. I just appreciate that she has that attitude about what goes on here. Because it really is. But we've reached a crossroads here. I mean, in the 28 years I've been doing this, I've had massive attitudinal shifts about government and about people in it and about how the country works. And I used to have a misguided perception of how things work. And as I've done this more and I've gotten older and acquired more experience and knowledge, I've developed a greater understanding. It's not an us versus them thing per se, but it's close to that. There is a ruling class. There is an establishment. There is a collection of elites. And like any collection of powerful people, they arrange things so that they benefit constantly. I mean, that's what any powerful group of people do. If you run your family, you have a family, you want to arrange things so your family does well. I mean, it's human nature to do this, but the collection, the assimilation of power that has occurred in this establishment has now resulted in their interests, their selfish interests, superseding by a lot the interests of the country at large. And so there is this battle for the kind of country we're going to be. And we're in a battle with people who don't care what kind of country this is because they've got it made already. They've got it jacked. They've arranged things so that they benefit no matter what happens out there. And by that I mean in the rest of the country. They don't live out there. And what happens out there doesn't affect them and the way they live and the way they manage their future for their kids and their friends and themselves. It's a very closed relationship, this club, this clique, whatever you want to call it. And you can't get into it by simply being good at what you do, by excelling at what you do, merit-based things. That's not how you get in it. There are other tests that have nothing to do with the traditional ways you and I have been taught to climb a ladder of success. Their ladder exists, and people climb it, but they don't reach higher rungs by getting better at what they do, out-competing other people at what they do. There are other ways. And this would be a good time. I mentioned at the top of the program, I ran across this piece in the UK Guardian, forget the FBI cache, the Podesta emails show how America is run. I read this thing today. It prints out, we've linked to it at rushlimbaugh.com, and I really would recommend you when you have time reading it. It's not that long. It prints out to 4 pages. And for some reason, it's large font here, so it's really not that many pages at a normal font size. But let me just give you 3 paragraphs here to illustrate what I mean. I've tried to explain this in my own words over the years about who these people are, what motivates them, and how they work together in stacking the deck for themselves. And it's Republicans and Democrats. It's not based on ideas. It's not based on our ideas are better than the Democrats. It has nothing to do with the way these people organize their lives. It has to do with power, total power. The emails currently roiling the U.S. presidential campaign are part of some unknown digital collection amassed by the troublesome Anthony Weiner. But if your purpose is to understand the clique of people who dominate Washington today, the emails that really matter are the ones being slowly released by WikiLeaks from the hacked account of Hillary's campaign chairman, John Podesta. They are last week's scandal in a year running over with scandals. But in truth, their significance goes far beyond mere scandal. These emails are a window into the soul of the Democrat Party and into the dreams and thoughts of the class to whom the party answers. The class to which I refer is not rising in angry protest. They are, by and large, pretty satisfied people. They're pretty contented. Nobody takes road trips to exotic West Virginia to see what the members of this class looks like. This is a reference to a story not long ago where some of these elites, a friend of theirs bought a house in West Virginia and they couldn't understand it. Some member of this club actually bought a house in West Virginia and the others were so puzzled they had to go there to see what it looked like. They had to drive to West Virginia to find out why their buddy bought a house there. They couldn't believe anybody would do it. So this is a sly reference to that. This bunch are comfortable and well-educated mainstay of our modern Democrat Party. They are also the grandees of our national media, the architects of our software, the designers of our streets, the high officials of our banking system, the authors of just about every plan to fix Social Security or fine-tune the Middle East with precision droning. They are, they think, not a class at all. They are, in their own minds, the enlightened ones, the people who must be answered to, but who need never explain themselves. Let us turn the magnifying glass on them for a change by sorting through the hacked personal emails of John Podesta, who has been a Washington power broker for decades. I admit, he goes on to talk about how these are stolen emails. Maybe he's not sure. He's nervous about trafficking. So he acknowledges that they might be illegally obtained and gotten, but that they can't be ignored. So he says, with all that taken into consideration, WikiLeaks furnishes us with an opportunity to observe the upper reaches of the American status hierarchy in all its righteousness and majesty. high-achieving colleagues attempting to get jobs for their high-achieving children, foundation executives doing fine and noble things, prizes, of course, high academic achievement, honorary degrees, awards, backslapping, telling each other how wonderful they are and how average everybody else is. Certain industries loom large in this group, and they are virtuous. Hillary's ingratiating speeches to Wall Street are well known, of course, but what's remarkable is that in the party of Jackson and Bryan and Roosevelt, smiling financiers now seem to stand on every corner, constantly offering advice about this and that. In one now famous email chain, for example, the reader can watch current U.S. Trade Representative Michael Froman, writing from a Citibank email address in 2008, appear to actually name Obama's cabinet. Even before Obama was elected, he turned out to have named them all. The far-sighted innovators of Silicon Valley are also in this club, in force, interacting all the time with the leaders of the party of the people. It goes on to say that what orients and unites all these people, it is liberalism. They all admit that it's all being Democrat, but it's power. It's acceptance. This is who runs the club. It's a club everybody wants to get into, and you can only get into it if you are of a certain mindset, if you have a certain pedigree, if you have a certain amount of money or show potential to being able to earn some and thus spread it around opportunity-wise for other members' kids. It's a closed clique. They're not the best and brightest. They're not the smartest. They haven't had to prove themselves in the market in many of these people's cases, the career politicians. This is the establishment. This is the elites. This is the ruling class that Angelo Codevilla wrote about. And their concerns just have very little in common. They don't illegal immigration. To complain about it is so uninformed and so small-minded. They never encounter. They never face the consequences of their own laws. They don't face the consequences of their own directives or actions. They live insulated lives of privilege and luxury because they've set themselves up this way. And anything that comes along that might upset all of this, and that's Donald Trump in this series, cannot be allowed to get anywhere near it or close. So every instinct I've had about this has been borne out to be accurate. This is a fascinating piece to read the whole thing. I'm a little long here, folks. I have to take a break, but I'm going to go back to the phone so we get back here. Here's Bruce in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. I have always loved Pawtucket, Rhode Island, ever since I was a baseball fan. It was a great minor league town. Great to have you, Bruce. How are you, sir?
Hi, Rush. Rush, it's an honor to get to speak with you. I've been listening to you for years, and you have provided a great part of my education about politics and the way the world really is.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Bruce.
I want to ask you regarding these nice things that Obama and company are saying about Comey, that he is, a person of integrity and he's doing this and that. It looks as if they're throwing Hillary over the side.
Yeah, it does.
Could this be a setup? Because I see that the Justice Department announced this morning that they are throwing in on this investigation, and it's all going to fall under the control of Peter Kadzik, who was like a best friend forever to John Podesta, and is extremely connected. I mean, Podesta, he even sent his son to Podesta.
Yeah, I think that's
the campaign.
If I'm not mistaken, I think Peter Kadzik is slated to handle the foundation investigation, the Clinton Foundation investigation. But you're right that this guy's a friend of Podesta's. They went to school together. He's in the DOJ. And let's cut to the chase of what this could be, because you're right. A lot of people emailed me last night. Rush, can it be they're getting ready to throw Hillary overboard? Here's Obama backing up Comey and all these other things that I've shared with you earlier during the day. To gauge this, you have to also include the L.A. Times story last night that somebody in the FBI said they could have preliminary results this week 650,000 emails could have preliminary results. So let's say, exactly as I hypothetically asked yesterday happens, let's say that tomorrow or Thursday, the FBI says our preliminary investigation says nothing new here. Well, Obama is set up. He's already claimed Comey is filled with integrity. Comey is entirely trustworthy. So if they say nothing new to see here before the election, Obama's backed it up. Hey, we trust this guy implicitly. It could also be the other, that they know that there's really bad stuff here. It involves Weiner, and that Huma has lied and all kinds of stuff, and it could well be that Obama does not want to be tied to this as it goes down for his own legacy. We just don't know. It's just there's no way of knowing what all this means right now because these people play games with us all the time. This Peter Kadzik guy that the previous caller talked about, this guy was Podesta's lawyer during the Lewinsky scandal. Remember, Podesta was charged with helping get her a job called Vernon Jordan and all that. And he is still ranking in the Department of Justice. And that's making people think the game's rigged over there. Why not with these people? Why wouldn't you think that? Hi, folks. Welcome back. It's a delight to have you here. It's a thrill and honor. It's great to be with you. Telephone number, you want to be on the program, 800-282-2882. A new email address, lrushbo@eibnet.us. Let's review where we are here. Some polling data today, from actually started yesterday. We have Trump plus 11 in Indiana with a Monmouth University poll. We have Reuters Ipsos Hillary plus 5. We have an ABC tracking poll, Trump plus 1, with vastly more enthusiasm on the Trump side than the Hillary side. And in this ABC poll, on October 23rd, Hillary was up 12. Today, Trump is up 1. ABC News reporters are depressed and in a panic as they report this today. Interestingly, at ABC in their poll, the breakout of their sample, 37% of the sample was Democrat, 27% Republican. So they roughly, it's not actually 10%, but 27% Republican, 37% Democrat. There's a lot more Democrats they sampled. And it was 37% or 36% independent. So of their entire sample, only 27% was Republican. Trump is up 1. And then this is new. Just in, Donald Trump has surged to a 12-point lead in Texas. This is from CBS in Dallas. Real estate mogul and Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump surged to a 12-point lead in Texas over Hillary Clinton in the latest KTVT CBS 11 Dixie Strategies poll. If the election were held today, 52% of likely general election voters in Texas would vote Trump. 39% say they would vote for Hillary. This marks the first time that Trump has polled over 50% in Texas, and it casts doubt on any Democrat victory on November 8th. But let's not forget something. Hillary was so confident of winning, she went to Texas a week or so ago. Do you remember the drive-bys all telling us that Texas was in play? All of these supposed red states are in play. Remember this last week? The election was already over. It was wrapped up. And Hillary and her team were going into all these red states to batten down the hatches to win the House and the Senate. They were going in there to nail every last coffin or nail in Trump's coffin. Just last week, they were going to Texas and other red states because it was already over. Hillary was so far ahead in the general election polling that Trump had no prayer. And then they were going, that's what the media told us. And so now we have Trump plus 12 in Texas. Channel 11 Dallas, the Dixie Strategies poll. There's something happening out there, folks. You just get this sense. I don't want to say any more than that. I'm being brazenly honest sharing that with you. There are some who would say, don't go there yet. And that is a reasonable little piece of advice. Don't go there yet. But I'm just getting a sense. And it's based on real-world events. It's not based on what I want, not based on hope. I'm just telling you, last week, the Clinton campaign is acting like this is over, and they're going into red states to win the House and the Senate. Oh, and let's not forget statistics on early voting in Florida. Trump, by the way, up by a point in Florida now, in a Fox News poll, I believe it is. But the early voting African-American turnout way below what it was in 2012 for Obama. And Hillary cannot win without that. And all last week, they were telling us that the early voting enthusiasm is all Hillary. It's all Democrat. There's none of it out there for the Republicans. There's none of it out there for Trump. Well, apparently there isn't all that much enthusiasm for her in Florida, plus 11 Indiana, plus 12 Texas. Now, those are red states. You would expect that to be the case, but Trump hadn't been plus 11 anywhere, any time in the general election. And never forget that as we get closer to the actual election day, polling tends to tighten or get more accurate represented. Something I had in the stack yesterday, didn't get to it. Kellyanne Conway, the campaign manager for Trump, was looking at a poll. Remember that question that I pointed out to you in 2012 in the exit polls when I saw it, that I knew the election was over? Cares about people like me? Obama won that 81-19 in the 5 p.m. exit polls, 2012. I saw that. Cares about people like me, 81 Obama, 19 Romney. And then 60% still blame Bush for the economy. I said, okay, I don't need to watch the returns tonight. This is over. If these exit polls are right, and they turned out to be. Kellyanne Conway cited, she said, that question's still relevant, she said, and they have been polling it. The Trump group's been polling it. Cares about people like me. And he and Hillary are tied on that question, according to a bunch of different polls out there. Romney was never close to being tied with Obama on that question, cares about people like me. And I don't think there's any confusion as to why. That's, in fact, I think the essence of Trump's campaign. Cares about people like you. The other side doesn't, no matter what they say. Now, there are other things here in the news in the stack that I have had prepared since the program began, and I just want to start getting into this. I don't want to leave anything on the table today. I walked out of here yesterday feeling horrendously bad because there's so much I intended to impart, and I didn't get to it just because of the way things fell out. AP story, Justice Department vows to quickly review emails related to Clinton. This is a story the LA Times hyped last night, and they indicated that there might be a preliminary review announced this week. Now, you put that in context with Obama praising Comey and the New York Times saying there's nothing to see here with Trump and Russia. You could look at this one of two ways, that either Obama and powerful entities in the Democrat Party know that they've got the goods on Hillary. Look, what are the odds here that there's nothing? They've got 650,000 emails. There are 33,000 emails that Hillary supposedly deleted that others say, no, they're there. We can get them. WikiLeaks alluding to the fact that they have them. Huma Abedin's not acting like somebody who is unconcerned. I mean, if they grab your computer that you've been sharing with your husband, and there's nothing on there, and if you've been truthful with the FBI all along, your reaction is, I don't care, there's nothing to see there. I gave the FBI everything I had. I told them everything I knew, and there's nothing to see. She didn't say that. Huma's reaction is, I don't know how those emails ended up on my husband's computer. She did not deny that there's something there. And, of course, we know there is, because Comey's original list of Clinton offenses back in July was deep and phenomenal. The only reason there was no prosecution, he said, is because they couldn't find that she intended to break the laws that she broke, but that she did break them. So if they found something else, the idea that it exonerates her, that's the stretch. But it could be. Remember who we're talking about. We're talking about the most powerful people in the country who have the power on a daily basis to arrange everything for their benefit. because they do. So they do have the power. They exercise it. So it's risky proposition to make predictions. But if the FBI, let's go the other way, if they've got this preliminary announcement or an announcement of a preliminary assessment of the emails, and if it is, sorry, we haven't found anything yet, then Obama, see, I knew Comey's a man of integrity. I knew, and they've totally, therefore, endorsed, if the FBI says tomorrow or Thursday, preliminarily, nothing to see here. And how would you feel if that happened? I mean, that'd make you feel pretty depressed, right? And that's what these people specialize in doing. Just keep a sharp eye. Okay, so there's that. John Podesta's best friend at the Department of Justice will be in charge of the Justice Department's probe into Huma Abedin emails. Now, this is the guy by the name of Peter Kedzik. And this, he is the Assistant Attorney General, lifelong friend of Podesta's. They went to law school together. Kedzik defended Podesta during the Lewinsky days. Kedzik also lobbied Podesta to get Mark Rich his pardon. I'm telling you this group of establishment types, the elites, it's an incestuous group. It's a small group. Everybody knows everybody. They go from media to Congress to legislative aid, back to media to think tank to lobbyist. They change jobs and they change roles, but their objectives are all the same. More recently, Kedzik asked Podesta for a job for his son on the Hillary campaign. And this is the guy who will be in charge of DOJ's probe into Huma Abedin's emails. Now, you're probably saying, what about the FBI? Well, the FBI investigates. The FBI has Weiner's computer. The FBI, looking into a Weiner case, found state.gov emails on Weiner's computer, meaning there's commingling here. They want the computer. They've got it. They got a warrant for it. They're looking to see if there are emails between Hillary and Huma or whoever, whatever. The FBI will then turn over whatever they find, not this week, but whenever this investigation actually ends, they'll turn it over to the Department of Justice, at which point this guy, Podesta's friend, will get it. Podesta's best friend will be in charge of the Department of Justice probe into Huma. That's months from now. There's something to do with what Comey announced. The Comey announcement and its impact will or will not be felt between now and Election Day, or has already begun to be felt and factored. But the FBI will eventually turn over whatever they've learned to the DOJ, and they decide whether to prosecute or not. They decide whether to impanel a grand jury or not. That's the area where the DOJ guy would get involved. He's not, I suppose he could be involved now. He could be telling Comey, recuse himself? Are you kidding? The establishment doesn't recuse itself. Republican members of the establishment would. But no, this guy's not going to recuse himself. Recuse himself? Recusing himself would violate every principle of being in the club. The reason you're in the club is so you don't have to recuse yourself. The reason you're in the club is to be able to affect the scales of justice for your benefit and your friends. That's the point of the club. The point of the club is to be immune from the daily law, the daily rigors of life that all the rest of the people of the country have to deal with. Recuse himself? No way. There's no way he's going to recuse just because Podesta's buddy and call Podesta and ask him to get a job for his kid in the Hillary campaign. There's no way he's going to recuse himself. That would be a tantamount admission, hey, I'm glad you guys have let me in the establishment of the club, but I'm not going to do anything for you. That's the end of him. This is, in fact, Snerdley, that question is the greatest way to illustrate what this club's all about that I could think of. Of course he's not going to recuse himself. The reason he's there is to see that the deck gets stacked in favor of other members of the club. That's why it's so corrupt. And this is whether people know it specifically or not, they the people of this country have gotten a sense that this is not how the country's run, that it's not fair, that there's not a level playing field, that certain people get certain advantage and others don't in the justice system. Not, equality before the law is one thing and equality of opportunity is another. But the deck is stacked. That's why these people exist, is to stack the deck in their favor, to stack the deck in favor of their kids, like Chelsea Clinton. $600,000 a year job at NBC and has never done a single thing in that business. That's exactly how membership in the club works. Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton have not paid, I saw a story, they have not paid serious money for any private jet travel in the last 10 years. They are constantly flying on other people's jets, donors to their foundation. People who are paying them to show up to do speeches, people attending Clinton global initiatives. The Clinton Foundation will call, "Thank you so much for the use of your plane, King Abdul." And so King Abdul donates. Bill Clinton flew from, I think Qatar, somewhere in the Middle East to Ethiopia on the king of the country's Boeing 747. Another potentate flew him on a 3,700-mile trip on a Boeing 767. The Clintons don't pay for any of this. And they have the gall to demand it of people already donating to their charity or to the Clinton Global Initiative or what have you. Anyway, that's a caller referred to this Peter Kedzik guy and wondered if this investigation, if whatever Comey's doing to the FBI, whatever they gather on Huma's and Weiner's laptop, Kedzik will then, don't think Loretta Lynch won't have a role either, determine how far the investigation goes, whether it goes anywhere or not. Here, in another story, UK Daily Mail, Hillary Clinton staffers knew 5 years ago that Anthony Weiner was talking to underage girls, that he was sexting. Hillary's staffers knew as early as 2011 that Anthony Weiner had been messaging an underage girl, but they did nothing about it. According to WikiLeaks emails published yesterday, John Podesta and Neera Tanden, another advisor, were forwarded news of an investigation into Weiner's online contact with a high school student, 17 years old, by Jennifer Palmieri, the current campaign communications director, in June of 2000, and they did nothing about it. Huma's boyfriend, and I don't know how long they've been married, Huma's boyfriend or husband, whatever, was sexting with a 17-year-old. The Hillary campaign knew it. At the time, he was married to Huma, who is now at the center of blah, 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 blah. The small detail, lurid claims of private messages to underage girl being investigated. Police met with a response of oof by Podesta. I mean, they didn't do anything about it. A piece by A.B. Stoddard, formerly of thehill.com, now at Real Clear Politics. Clinton owns it all, meaning all of this is her fault. Don't try to blame it on Comey or anybody else. I've got to go to a break. I want to get more of your phone calls in. Still lots to do, folks. Don't go anywhere. Do you remember George Lakoff, rhymes with? His divorced wife, 74-year-old woman named Robin, has a piece in Time magazine. Hillary Clinton's email gate is an attack on all women, and I get blamed in this. I'm gonna share this with you the next half hour. It's a riot. It's hilarious, and I think it shows the depths to which they've sunk to try to explain things. But here is Robert in Southampton, in New York. Great to have you, sir. Glad you waited. I appreciate your patience.
Oh, thanks for taking my call again. I appreciate it.
You bet, sir.
My question is having to do with Kasich. Now, Kasich just wrote in John McCain's name, completely, throwing away his vote. But don't stunts like this illustrate the way nothing else can, the way the GOP and perhaps maybe even much of the conservative movement is really just controlled opposition whose real concern is to virtue signal to the left while the country burns? I mean, is it any surprise that with people like Paul Ryan and Kasich and you got Egg McMuffin out there in Utah basically running a shadow campaign for Hillary. I mean, is this a good indicator of why nothing of any consequence has been conserved over the last 50 years? Not our borders, not our demographics, not marriage, not even women's bathrooms. I mean, they can't even hold the line on that. I mean, it's just, I mean, is there any hope for these people? I mean, I don't think so, but I mean, when they do things like this, I mean, if it isn't controlled opposition, Rush, then why are there no corresponding figures like Paul Ryan or Kasich or...
Wait a second. Are you saying hold the position or controlled opposition? What are you saying?
I'm saying that much of the conservative movement isn't meant to actually win, because here we are at the bottom of the ninth with 2 strikes, and we have people like Ryan, Egg McMuffin, and now... No, I know. They're putting
it's my hearing. If you're saying conservatism holds its position, you're right about something there, which I wanted to expand on. If you're saying controlled opposition, I don't know what that means. So that's what I was trying to clarify. Look, I'm going to answer this after the break. I think I know what you're asking me. Okay, the FBI has pulled the hard drive out of that laptop. They've pulled the hard drive from the Huma and Anthony Weiner hard drive, and for the purpose of examining Huma's work emails. There are Huma Abedin work emails on that laptop after she had told everybody she had turned over everything. So that's the red flag here. So they have pulled the hard drive. That is one thing. Obama was on a TV show called You Wouldn't Want to See Me Full Frontal by Samantha Bee. Isn't that the name of the show? You Wouldn't Want to See Me in Full Frontal by Samantha. Well, Full Frontal, yeah, but I mean, it must be You Wouldn't Want to See Me Full Frontal. Hosted by Samantha Bee. Anyway, Obama's on that show. And you know what he said? If Hillary's elected, people are going to learn and describe her as moody. Now, why in the world? That's not an endorsement. He's telling this babe that hosts this show, yeah, well, you know, if Hillary wins, I mean, people's reaction to her, they're going to call her moody. What is that? They're going to get He was characterizing the way she's going to be criticized, not characterizing his view of her. Oh, okay. I'm glad you told me that, because I don't watch If You Saw Me in Full Frontal, You Wouldn't Want to Watch with Samantha Bee. So I actually thought that he was throwing her under the bus with that comment. So what he's actually saying is that if she wins, they're going to describe her as constantly in her period. That's what he's saying. Meaning, just they telling me I wasn't born here, they wouldn't let the birthday thing go. They'd be talking about Hillary. She Nurse Ratched, constantly whining and moaning like her, moody, meaning she's on her. Okay, fine. Still not an endorsement. I mean, why of all things, when you're on You Wouldn't Want to See Me Full Frontal by Samantha Bee, why wouldn't you say, oh, yes, Hillary's going to be great. When Hillary's elected, she's going to just continue sticking it to him like I have. Instead of saying, now people are going to call her moody. All right, as to the previous caller from Southampton's question about Kasich admitting that he voted for McCain. Folks, this isn't complicated. He had a phrase called controlled opposition. I had not heard the phrase. And rather than assume I know what it meant, I looked it up to the extent that I could. The theory behind controlled opposition is this, that Republican elected elites work with the Democrats by controlling just how much actual opposition to the Democrats there is. And in this way, by maintaining controlled opposition, Republicans are able to stay in close association with Democrats. Controlled opposition is a way of limiting how strident and successful conservatives are in opposing Democrats. Here's the bottom line. It's no more complicated than this. John Kasich does not think that it's important to defeat Hillary Clinton. Who cares why? All you need to know is that. If John Kasich, the governor of Ohio, who has, since he's the governor, he has the mechanisms to get ground game activity going to facilitate the Republican nominee. If he wanted to, he could do a lot to help Trump in Ohio. Instead, is choosing not to. So John Kasich, and he's not alone, John Kasich has made it clear that defeating Hillary Clinton and Democrats is not his primary objective. What more do you need to know? The Never-Trumpers have done the same thing. The Never-Trumpers have made it clear that in their worldview, defeating Hillary is not the most important challenge of this election. Defeating Trump is. Keeping Trump out of power is viewed by many Republicans as the primary objective. Now, I happen to get the sense, pretty confident that I know this, the vast majority of you firmly believe that the country is on the wrong path and has been for a long time, largely because of Democrats and establishment types, and you want them stopped. You don't want Hillary elected because you don't want continuation of the last 8 years. You want the Democrats out of power. You think the Democrats' priorities are not the best to maintain this country as founded. So you don't want Hillary elected. You don't like the leadership of the country as it's currently constituted. You think there needs to be a change in leadership. John Kasich obviously doesn't. John McCain's not going to win anything, so he writes McCain's name in. McCain's not going to win, so it's not really a vote for McCain. John Kasich doesn't want to do anything that might actually lead to Hillary Clinton losing. That's what he's saying. Well, how else can you analyze this? Help me out. Am I missing something? I mean, you can say he's making a statement of principle, Mr. Limbaugh. He is diametrically opposed to Mr. Trump because Trump doesn't deserve to be in the Oval Office or reprobate. Trump's this, Trump's that. Fine. That's fine. But the end result of that is that we continue with the kind of dangerous leadership that we've had for the last 8 years, which we don't want. I don't think it's complicated. You can talk about controlled opposition all you want. I mean, it's clear that the Republican elites, this guy he making a joke, they couldn't even make a stand for bathrooms, for crying out loud. They don't make a stand for the border. They don't take a stand on cultural issues. But in the specific case of Kasich, folks, it isn't complicated. It's obvious that John Kasich is not interested in Hillary Clinton losing. Will people forget it? No, Republicans won't forget it. But, then what Kasich and others will rely on is all politics is local. Depending on what Kasich, can he run for re-election or is he term limited, Governor? I don't know. I don't have any idea. Anyway, I'm not even thinking about what people forget. To me, the world is the next 8 days. I don't care about 15 days from now. The world is the next 8 days. And we got people in the next 8 days who apparently are okay with Hillary Clinton winning. People on our side who are apparently okay with Hillary Clinton winning. I don't care the reasoning. I don't understand it. They can tell me they think Trump's a reprobate, that Trump's this, Trump's horrible, Trump... Isn't it interesting? I'm supporting the party nominee, and I'm the bad guy. And they are subordinating, sabotaging the party nominee, and they're the good guys. That's what I thought. Kasich took the pledge to support the nominee. He took the pledge to support the nominee. The drive-bys are praising Kasich left and right for refusing to vote for Trump. But they forget that he promised to support the nominee. He's also term limited to 2 terms, so he cannot run after 2018. I'm pretty sure. I have checked this stuff on the fly. I only need to put an asterisk by it to make sure. I mentioned Robin Lakoff, the divorced wife of George Lakoff, rhymes with, who was a linguistics a specialist for the Democrats, gave them the words they should use. This babe has weighed in an article in Time magazine on how Hillary ought to go about dealing with her opposition. She's a professor of linguistics at California, Berkeley, the author of Language and Woman's Place. And she said, it's not about emails, it's about public communication by a woman. I am mad, writes Lakoff, rhymes with. I am mad because I am scared, and if you're a woman, you should be too. Emailgate is a bitch hunt, but the target isn't Hillary Clinton, it's all of us. The only reason the whole email flap has legs is because the candidate is female. Can you imagine this happening to a man? Clinton's guilty of speaking white female. And Emailgate is just a reminder to us all that she has no business doing what she's doing and must be punished for the sake of all decent women everywhere. There's so much of that going around. If people are demanding Clinton act like moral exemplars, thundering from the pulpit like Jonathan Edwards or Cotton Mather. But Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, Newt Gingrich, Rush Limbaugh, and their many conservative friends are not remotely Clinton's moral superiors. They are simply bullies, using gender discrimination to give a veneer of plausibility to their accusations. So we oppose Hillary because she's out of place. She's a woman, and she needs to be in the kitchen and barefoot and pregnant. Envision that if you can. That's what this woman says. She's a loon. She's 74 years old. She's George Lakoff's divorced wife, and she's obviously touched that Hillary is in trouble because she speaks bitch. And speaks bitch? Well, what that means is that misogynists don't like a woman who speaks her mind. A nag. And that's what Hillary is, and she's got to be shut up for that reason. It's totally sexism. The only reason Hillary's not in trouble for anything she did, breaking the law, emails or whatever, is just a bunch of bullies who don't want Hillary to have power because she's a woman. That's what this babe thinks. And she's advising the Hillary campaign on how to deal with this. I hope they listen to her. Real Clear Politics, updated, has reduced Hillary Clinton's projected electoral college vote. Don't have the numbers, but she's lost New Hampshire in their projections. And what else? The betting markets. The betting markets, if you believe in any of that, Hillary is down 10 points from where she was. So she's continuing to trend down at Real Clear Politics and other places. We'll be right back here tomorrow, folks. See you then.